So, archetypal criticism. The word archetype, it comes from the ancient Greeks at that point, archetypon. It's talking about the original pattern of things, so the original pattern of stories, right? Every story kind of follows a pseudo archetype at that point. In this case, we're talking about the first mold or model, and it has been adopted and adapted with adaptations later on, right? So in literature and art, the archetype of a character, tradition, events in the story itself, images, locations, the meanings behind everything, that's kind of something that happens, and it's going to continuously occur throughout literature itself. So that's why when we were reading Beowulf or watching the movie even, you can notice these patterns of story have occurred in other pieces of media, movies, books, video games, and stuff like that. Archetypes, archetypical criticism, it focuses on those patterns in the literary work. So like I just said, criticism does not mean that we're sitting there and saying that this is bad and this is good. Criticism is looking for the patterns of previously established archetypes in current stories. Images, figures, as we said, story patterns. We kind of focus on certain classic myths, stories, rituals, folklore, fairy tales, and everything when we're looking for this, because we want to go back to the original. We want to see the original hero story. I've said it before. The villains, how they appear, locations, stuff like that. An archetype is the pattern from which other similar things have been developed. It's called the original model. That's kind of where the Greek term comes from. We could see this as an example of the idea of using the flood. A flood in a story, we all kind of remember that one from, let's say, the Bible, right? The Great Flood, Noah's Ark and all that stuff. The flood symbolizes a cleaning of the slate. And you'll find it in other stories that involve the use of a flood, whether on a large global scale or even on a micro scale. Let's say a dam bursts because of somebody was doing some shady stuff, and it's destroyed, and now the whole town is washed away. Well, now we can start anew. The flood usually symbolizes the idea of cleaning off the slate, and let's start from the beginning. So that is an archetype. We see this in the traditions of different, completely different and differing religions as well. Jesus, the classic use of the sacrifice for themselves for humankind, right? Jesus sacrificed himself so that humanity could go on without sin or continue to live. We have this in the Eastern tradition as well of Maheshivanta, with the god Shiva, who, to save humanity from the waters of the world being poisoned, ingested the poison herself. So both are these traditions of sacrifice, and through the sacrifice of these individuals, we have a saving of the people themselves to be able to live on and potentially become better for it. So from this, we have a philosopher of sorts, Carl Jung. Now, if you don't know who Carl Jung is, he's the one that came up with the idea of archetypes existing as a collective. Now, differing cultures that have never met before, if you look at their story arcs, seem to have similar archetypes that exist. His theory is he based the idea that this collective consciousness is a part of our own mass subconscious at that point. We as a people, not individual cultures, but as a whole, have these archetypes kind of ingrained into us from a story point of view. So the collective unconscious is not directly knowable and is a product of a shared experience of our ancestors. It's the ancestor root of our people that carry on to us currently. A cool idea about this, or an interesting idea, is that one thing that all these different cultures have, let's say we go from the Mayan culture all the way to the cultures of the East, China and maybe Japan. One thing they have in common, a big thing that they have in common, that appeared in this movie and in the story itself, is the existence of dragons. Dragons exist in all cultures. Same things, too, where it's these dragons that look the same, they act the same. They have scales and fire breathing, they fly and all these other things. Why do these cultures have the same looking things in them if they have never once cooperated with one another? They don't even know that each other exist. It's believed it's a shared unconscious. It's a shared belief. It's something that we as a people associate with each other. They said that the reason that the dragon looks the way it does throughout cultures is because it's a culmination of what our ancestors would have feared. Giant lizards, giant crocodiles, things with claws, things that fly. It's an idea, and it's a really interesting one, I thought. The Jungian quest. It assumes that the monomyth of the quest or journey underlies archetypical images. Now, we're using this because Star Wars kind of follows the classic hero's journey. A hero is forced to leave their comfortable surroundings. Now, to us, Tatooine might not be that comfortable because it's a giant desert world, but to Luke, he was living a fine life. He was enjoying himself. He was living on a farm. Maybe he was getting a little antsy. He wanted to go do something else. But he is forced to go on this adventure to fulfill these challenges, to be part of to become the hero he's meant to be. He meets a wise old man in this sense, or in general they meet a sage, a wise old sage, an old person usually, who knows things, who knows innately things, that wants to help them and lead them. And then they have to go through a test. They are tested to show that they are a hero. This is Lord of the Rings, right? Frodo, Gandalf, the One Ring. This is, I don't know, there's so many of them that it's like kind of piling on there. I think we were going to reference it with Batman, right? He, living a comfortable life, Alfred leads him, becoming Batman. It's a shared Jungian quest. So these are the archetypical characters. Yep. Mm-hmm. The archetypical characters that exist in just about any story. Now, they might not all be in there, but you'll find a flavor of each one of these. A hero or a heroine. Can somebody name me a hero from a story? You just read a story that had a hero in it? Beowulf, there we go. Use the easy stuff right there, because you're going to be taking a test on it. Beowulf is a hero. He's the archetypical hero in this sense. A sidekick or a helper. Anybody remember that from any story that they've read or movie that they've seen, maybe? Robin, there you go. Batman and Robin. I'd have taken Alfred as well, because he also fulfills the part of the sidekick, or a helper at that point. You have your hero and you have their sidekick. You have the person that is with them, that they're a ride or die, they're the guy, gal, whoever it is that wants to help them succeed. They're not as powerful, but they're there to help. The villain, classic villain. Every good hero has a great villain, as they say. And the villain appears in just about any piece of media, whether it's something on a micro level, where it's just a jerk, as I've said before, Biff from Back to the Future. If you've never seen Back to the Future, go and watch it. You will hate Biff. He is the worst character that's ever been existed. And I put that with the Joker. And then you have big characters like, I don't know, from the Marvel Universe that they had with Thanos, right? You have different villains who are there to test the hero. And they're often very powerful or they're very determined. The wise sage. We just referenced that. Wise sage is usually an older character. Usually you've seen them as like an old man with a big beard. They know things. They understand that the hero themselves has something else in them that they don't even see, and they're trying to help them succeed at it. You could say Merlin from Arthurian lore, who obviously influenced Gandalf. You could say we keep going to Batman because we've just shown something about Alfred once again. It doesn't have to be a man, it could be a woman sometimes as well, obviously, or anybody, anything, to be completely honest. It could be an animal in some situations. The outcast. The outcast character is often seen as someone who isn't welcomed. Classic, right? They're not welcomed in society. People don't really want them there. They could be either a hero or a villain at that point, as we've seen. The outcast character in Beowulf that could be seen as a villain as well is someone who's not welcome in society is Grendel. Yeah, announce it. Come on, say it. Grendel, he's an outcast character. They don't want him there. Get out of here. You eat people. He's a monster. That's an outcast. The Oracle, the one who knows things, innately just knows and understands things, often called the Sage or the Oracle or this or that. They play a part in that they are there to help guide the characters on a level that they don't understand. The Matrix universe has the Oracle in it. Guess what she does? Exactly this, right? From, to Neo's point of view. It stems from the Oracle of Delphi, who was in a couple of different myths, who used to tell heroes that they were destined for something, but it was also kind of bad. The Oracle of Delphi, I believe, told Oedipus's father that he was going to kill him, so the whole thing with that. The caring mother figure, often channeled into an Earth figure mother, a Gaian-style character. Older as well, often is seen as someone who can be not doting over the children in it, but often appears as that motherly figure, someone who is always there to support and help. Not like a stepmother character who's often seen as an evil one. The mad scientist, Frankenstein, right? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In the Invisible Man too. Any of these, like a lot of the Gothic style stuff likes to do that, but it comes into the more common world. This is someone who believes that science has no good or evil, and by doing that, kind of commits some evil acts, but sees it as progress and goodness, because they're like, no, this has to be done. We have to accomplish this.
If any of you are gamers, we see that in the Resident Evil series
Mhm.
with the virus that causes the zombies.
Yep. The femme fatale. Now, we referenced it before with the change that they did to Grendel's mother in this, that she became kind of a femme fatale. This is a character who understands that she is, sought after. She's very attractive, and she uses that to get what she wants. She manipulates people around her and kind of pretends in some situations that she doesn't know what she's doing, because she's like, oh, please help me. Really what she's doing is like, I'm manipulating these people. This appears a lot in, it's called detective noir, or noir books or movies. Noir is a setting in which it is like back alley dealings and bad guys doing stuff behind the shadows, usually gangster related, usually involves a private detective, some dude that's like sitting in a room with like a broken fan, and he's drinking and he's talking to himself. The big one that I remembered was the Maltese Falcon. It's a crime story about this statue that's known as the Maltese Falcon. It's supposed to be very precious, and there's characters in it who want it, and of course there's a femme fatale who's convincing someone to go and find it because she's working behind everybody's back. We have the Don Juan, or the Casanova, the womanizer, a gentleman who, he's just, he's a playboy at that point. He's not very...
The Great Gatsby.
Great Gatsby, or Casanova, the character themselves and everything like that. Like, these are guys that are just like, don't leave them alone with your girlfriend kind of attitude. The Star-Crossed Lovers, Romeo and Juliet. These are characters that innately fall in love with one another, but through just the world they live in, cannot really be together. Whether it is feuding families, whether it is Jack and Rose being from different socio-economical locations, whether it's the two characters from The Notebook with just like bad things happening all the time. We've seen this before, and it's usually younger characters that just like, they look across the room and they see each other and like, I'm in love with them. Well, I think the world is telling you something that maybe you should, talk to them for a minute, because bad stuff just follows them. And it usually ends with them together, and it kind of usually ends with them together, but in a tragic sense. The Witch or the Shrew. Now, the Witch or the Shrew is usually seen as an older female character, once again, who is kind of the opposite to the mother figure, because she is often seen as being like villainous, evil, or treacherous is a better way of putting it, because one that I often reference with this, the witch character can be seen from Baba Yaga. Now, Baba Yaga isn't just the name given to the character in Keanu Reeves movie. It's the name of the title. What's his name? Dude with the dog that goes on the rampage. Whatever. Baba Yaga is a forest witch from Russian lore, and she's often seen as being just like, either she'll help you or she'll try to eat you, or maybe she'll help you at first and then try to eat you. She's often seen as being very dangerous. That doesn't mean that she's always dangerous to everybody, but she could be a danger to you. So it's your moment dealing with a witch. You have to kind of play by their rules, but work your way around their rules as well. And it's really the hero that's the moment that the hero is like in a lot of danger, but the witch kind of wants him to win, but kind of doesn't. But then you could also get things like, I don't know, the Wicked Witch of the West, who's just, she's just mean, unless you're going to go by the wicked lore of it. We have the underdog. Underdog, showed it before. Luke was an underdog before he started. He was just some, farming kid from a desert world. You have Frodo or Bilbo from the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. Rocky Balboa from Rocky. You have characters who start off at the bottom, and we as the audience want them to win. The underdog is always the guy or gal or whoever that we want them to succeed. That's who we want to win the whole thing. We want them to beat the system or beat the empire or whatever it is.
Gods.
Yeah, the gods even, yeah.
The odds.
Oh, I thought you said the gods, the odds too. We want them.
Russo, the Karate Kid,
Yeah.
is another example.
You want them to win because you want to believe in the fact that they can do it. That you associate more often with the underdog than anybody else. The stern father. The stern father could be seen with the star-crossed lovers sometimes. The stern father figure is always someone who's like, no, this has to be done my way. And they're unflinching in their resolve. And it's whether they want their daughter to not see that guy anymore, or they want their son to go to the college that they went to. I think, what was that football movie from back in the day? And they made it into a TV show, Varsity Blues. The stern father figure is like, no, you have to play football, and then you have to go to this college because I said so. Stern father figure. They don't. It's either by the end of it they're seen. They usually see the light of what they did wrong, and they're like, I can't believe I did that to my kid, or sometimes they turn out to be the villain. The damsel in distress, classic. Oh no, I've been captured by something. King Kong had this. Most movies that involve that have a villain kidnapping someone that's precious to the hero. Stories with dragons always have a damsel in distress. That's kind of where it comes from, honestly. The St. George and the Dragon, this dragon kidnaps a woman to eat her. The knight has to rescue her. The damsel is kind of a piece that's not really used too much anymore because of the implications of it being, anti-woman. And then the last but not least, the fall guy. The fall guy can actually be the hero a lot of the times. The fall guy is the guy who, at the end of it, thought that they were in on the plan, but really they were the scapegoat. They were the one that was going to be given up when things went the way it was supposed to go. So in order for the bad guy's plan to succeed, the fall guy has to be used, often seen as, you could say, as a scapegoat. The situations that they go through, we have the task, the trial, that's the, you have to go and succeed at this larger than odds thing. The journey, that's usually tied with the task, the journey they go on. So from the Hobbit's point of view, from the Shire all the way to Mordor and back, that's the journey. The quest is often involved with it as well. There's something they have to succeed at. So you have the task and the quest and the journey. That's all kind of on top of one another. Loss of innocence. A lot of these characters start off being innocent, as we would say. They're like us. They're just people that are living their life. And then they're put into a situation where they have to do something that we don't think we would have to do. Right? You have to fight against something that's terrible and terrifying. You have to potentially kill a monster or whatever it is. That's kind of a loss of innocence, because afterwards you're not the same.
Life smacks you in the face.
Yeah.
You have a rude awakening.
The initiation, being brought into the fold, the apocalypse, the end of the world. They're either fighting against the potentiality of it or they're living through it. Mad Max, The Walking Dead, the Reign of Fire movie we talked about. These are Quiet Place. These are apocalypse level things that have occurred and people living in them. Or we're fighting against the potentiality of that occurring. Pursuit of revenge. Characters are often set up. And the story, using in medias res, starts with them being in, getting out of prison or something like that, and being like, I'm going to get my revenge on these guys. I'm going to seek revenge against them. Batman sought revenge against crime completely in the city of Gotham because of what happened to him. That was his loss of innocence and all that stuff. Descent into the underworld, we saw this, right? The descent into the underworld with Beowulf was in the form of him going into the Grendel's location. We see this in the Odyssey with Odysseus. We see this in ancient Greece, happens a lot. People go down to the underworld and come back. Dante's Inferno is all about Dante allegory going down into the underworld and coming back up. All those kind of things. Searching for your father, searching for parents in general. That's a big thing. They want to know who they are and where they came from. So they're searching for their father was the traditional one with it. We saw the damsel in distress already. And then banishment by a prince or banishment by a figurehead. You're kicked out of a location, and it's you living afterwards with the consequences of that. The old school one of that, Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were kicked out of paradise by God, seen as the prince in this case. So, you just got a worksheet right now. What we're going to do